Okay, back here again. Um, think that going over things again with the Amber Heard trial. Hopefully everything's okay with the stream. Um, if it's not, there's a crappy internet connection here. I apologize for that. Any problem with streaming or whatever, um, let me know, audio or other. I need to know. Thank you. Um, hope everyone's having a good Friday. In some places, it's of course about 11:30. Another place in Europe, of course, it's the next day. Um, going over the Amber Heard trial. Um, I began watching this, I believe, last Thursday. Um, really getting involved because thing is that there's a huge difference between litigation, um, defamatory cases, um, civil cases versus criminal, and what you can say and what you can argue about these cases and everything. Um, so, if it's one thing that I think we've all gotten, to know about from Amber Heard as a whole, is that she seems to be a habitual liar. She's very good at it. She's good at acting her way. She's terrible, very terrible at trying to create tears. This was mentioned in a trial, by the way, that she's terrible at it. When she tries to make tears, she's not able to do that. Thank God, because you know how much of a fake Amber Heard is with that. Um, we have seen over this trial, you know, Camille has been very passionate about this case. Um, and usually with lawyers, usually it's about the money. Um, this is not the case with Johnny Depp. And there's a relative difference between Johnny Depp's legal team and Amber Heard's. That's more to do with money with Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. It's more personal, a lot more personal, um, and everything. Um, Another thing that I have, I'm making bullet points here, is that, of course, some of these lawyers like Camille, she's been with him since the UK. Um, and all through this is she knows about Amber Heard's lies. What's crazy is that what this is that all through his, I mean, he's lucky that he has a good lawyer like her that is passionate about the case. Okay, with Amber Heard, as I was saying, just pop back in. The only person that I know of, or maybe two, that really showed up to her trial for Amber Heard was her sister, maybe her publicist. Um, and I've seen her sister laugh about Amber Heard and about some of the lies and everything. Um, One of the biggest things, of course, that you see, that we have seen in a trial if you've kept close watch, is that these pictures that Amber Heard has taken were modified. A lot of this stuff was modified, and you can tell like they've gone over. When there's a modification to a file, like Amber Heard has done, there's a difference in the megabytes and gigabytes of those pictures or videos. The original is going to stay the same, but modified, there's going to be more file, more to the file, where it's going to take up more space on the computer. Because, okay, say like the picture that some of us content creators do, like what I did with Spiegel. Okay, I added some stuff to his picture. Okay, the original of what he really looks like is not going to, file space. However, the one that I did alter is going to take up more space and everything. Um, which I hope some people got a kick out of with that. Um, Now, Spiegel's smart, no doubt about that, but he looked like a mental patient. Problem, and it doesn't do your case good when your witness on the stand for the defense about uh, the fact that in court they use these was it character studies, um, because each the defense and the prosecution, when you do criminal or you do these other civil cases, is that each side has their psych witness in cases like this. And Spiegel was alluding to, even though they do not always personally interview, the plaintiffs, whether it's prosecution or defense, they do a character study of different case studies, different these different pretty much standards, which could be 20 different areas, whether it's from drug use, PTSD, or other mental um, areas of mental health. And you take all these things together of a person, you pretty much make a profile of these people. So in that profile, with all these studies that you put together, 20 different, things that you put together, different compilations, and merge them into one. Spiegel was right, which it may not be right to use in court because it really isn't. But this is the way that cases in legal law works. And this is pretty much the same with other countries, whether you're defense or prosecution. You use studies, even if you haven't done, if you have interviewed the witnesses, or I should say the plaintiffs of the defense and prosecution stuff. And plaintiffs, I should say, is not the same for prosecution, because obviously with the defense, it is the plaintiffs versus prosecution and stuff. So it's different. Um, Another thing that I noticed is that the lighting in the courtroom, okay, can make it to where Amber Heard looked bruised. This is big because, I mean, anybody could tell. You look at the lighting a certain way. There's shadows and stuff everybody has with their faces and everything. Um, and That's what Amber Heard did with her camera. She adjusted lighting and stuff to fit what she wanted and used that with whatever else programs with her Apple iPhone. And there's different programs you can use on your iPhones for that, Apple iPhones. Another thing here is that everyone seems to be a liar but Amber Heard. Everyone. She blames Johnny Depp for everything that has gone wrong in her life. And at a certain point, people are going to tell you maybe you are the problem, not everyone else. And I think that it was a mistake. It's definitely a mistake for her trying to use herself as a victim of domestic violence when she is not in any way, except for the fact that her and Johnny were in a toxic freaking relationship they should have never been in. And I know about relationships very well, um, and stuff about what is toxic and what isn't. This one was toxic, and not just for Johnny, but for Amber Heard. The thing with Amber Heard is she tried to use herself as a female, and it's unfortunate the way politics is today, and how women can say pretty much anything and say that they're a victim of domestic violence and people will believe it without any corroborating evidence to the fact. All you do is have to say something. If you're a man, people won't believe you. Um, it's a very, very two-faced system and everything, the way things are right now. Um, and it has to change really, because us guys could be a victim of women as well. It's just a fucking fact. Um, you know, when somebody like Amber Heard consistently lies on a witness stand and blames others and said that they're pretty much paid out of the pocket by Johnny Depp, there's a problem right there. Um, and she's gotten away with a lot of stuff in this trial. Um, yeah, photographic experts. One of the photographic experts that's done, classified and unclassified work using cameras, computers, helicopters for different companies, including Department of Defense, I believe, said that the pics were doctored. They had another expert for the defense say that he didn't know of that, he didn't think it was, but then again, he's paid to say otherwise. Now, both teams pay their witnesses, pretty much. However, if you know anything like I do about programs and how they can change a file or a picture, you'll notice from the evidence, from Johnny's team, that she did alter those pictures. It looks pretty much like a lighting with one of those programs, a certain way, and everything is freaking easy to do and stuff. And I mean, it's just she's Amber is good at always digging herself a hole. This isn't 6 feet deep. This is like miles upon miles deep, where she just continually buries herself over and over again and says she's a victim of domestic violence, in which she isn't. What both sides are a victim of is pretty much a toxic relationship, which people shouldn't be in any way. Um, anyways, I don't see. Let me see what's up here. I want to see everything. Let me see here. I might just do a video about this. Um, yeah, I think I might. Um, it's let me see. What I need to do is I need to record some of this here. Okay, there it is. It's recording again. All right. I want this so I mean because there is just all this stuff with Amber Heard's past that she has. I mean, she's said on movie sets, or she's had to have certain timeouts, certain stuff people can and cannot talk about on the set in other public places, not just public but private, with friends, family. I don't know who those friends are. But if anything, I think what she said is that people have done that to her, not just her to them. That says a lot when people put it on you. It means that they see through the bullshit, her bullshit, and everything. And a lot of people have seen through her bullshit. You see Camille here. She's taken this case very, very passionately, very seriously. You can see it. And there's a reason, because when you see through a person's lies, deceit, and everything else, you do not have a respect for that person whatsoever. And with her face like this, in this courtroom, she's just ready to dig her fangs and claws into Amber. The thing about Amber is she, like I said, she is a good actor in a way. When she's on a witness stand, she takes every second to attack Johnny, saying she's a victim of domestic violence, which she isn't, of which she's been beaten up, and evidence says otherwise, that she is not. This is the lowest form of trash. A person trying to be a victim when they're not. That is just about unforgivable. The only way you can forgive a person like her is because she is mentally ill. She has mental problems. And that's the only way that you can forgive a person, is because from what I hear is that she can have multiple personality disorder. We don't know the evidence fully if she does have this or not. However, a lot of people with multiple personality disorders is that you have a certain personality that kicks in at certain times of stress. Okay? This in mind, say she did, okay, argumentatively, say she did have multiple personality disorder. Her personality of her being a victim would have come out in this case. However, usually with multiple personalities, it's another person inside of you that's supposedly uh, doing the talking. It's not you. It's not yourself. It's another person that's talking, taking over your body, pretty much. That's the thing with multiple personality disorder. Sorry, my nose itches. um, oh, Jesus Christ! With all this stuff, let's get into this a little bit here. I want to see this because you can see.
Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. And number 2, the statement was about Mr. Depp. And number 3, the statement is false. And number 4, the statement has a defamatory implication about Mr. Depp. And number 5, the defamatory implication was designed and intended by Ms. Heard. And number 6, due to the circumstances surrounding the publication of this statement, it conveyed a defamatory implication to someone who saw it other than Mr. Depp. And if Mr. Depp further proved by clear and convincing evidence, number 7, that Ms. Heard made the statement with actual malice. If Mr. Depp failed to prove any one or more of the 7 elements above, then you shall find your verdict for Ms. Heard with respect to the above statement.
Because she lied about it.
You shall only return your verdict for Mr. Depp on his claim for defamation about the following statement if he has proved by the greater weight of evidence that, number 1, Ms. Heard made or published the following statement. Then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. And number 2, the statement was about Mr. Depp. And number 3, the statement is false. Number 4, the statement has a defamatory implication about Mr. Depp. And number 5, the defamatory implication was designed and intended by Ms. Heard. And number 6, due to the circumstances surrounding the publication of this statement, it conveyed a defamatory implication to someone who saw it other than Mr. Depp. And if Mr. Depp further proved by clear and convincing evidence, number 7, that Ms. Heard made the statement with actual malice. If Mr. Depp failed to prove any one or more of the 7 elements above, then you shall find your verdict for Ms. Heard with respect to the above statement. You shall only return your verdict for Mr. Depp on his claim for defamation about the following statement if he has proved by the greater weight of the evidence that, number 1, Ms. Heard made or published the following statement. I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. And number 2, the statement was about Mr. Depp.
Wrong.
And number 3, the statement is false.
And
number 4, the statement has a defamatory implication about Mr. Depp. And number 5, the defamatory implication was designed and intended by Ms. Heard. And number 6, due to the circumstances surrounding the publication of the statement, it conveyed a defamatory implication to someone who saw it other than Mr. Depp. And if Mr. Depp further proved by clear and convincing evidence, number 7, that Ms. Heard made the statement with actual malice. If Mr. Depp failed to prove any one or more of the 7 elements above, then you shall find your verdict for Ms. Heard with respect to the above statement.
If he's guilty or not.
You shall only return your verdict for Ms. Heard on her claim for defamation about the following statement if she has proved by the greater weight of the evidence that, number 1, Adam Waldman, while acting as an agent for Mr. Depp, made or published the following statement. Amber Heard and her friends in the media use fake sexual violence allegations as both a sword and a shield, depending on their needs. They have selected some of her sexual violence hoax facts as the sword, inflicting them on the public and Mr. Depp. And number 2, the statement is about Ms. Heard.
Okay, one thing is, she said that Johnny Depp sexually assaulted her vagina and made her bleed. A woman like her, why didn't she go to hospital? Why did she make a report? With all these abuse allegations, she not once. Okay, she did make that report. She did make that report. And she press charges like what, a day later, or she made a report. She was seen laughing and smiling the next day. This was yesterday, on the 26th. It was day 23 of the trial. And this could be looked up, that she did. And I believe she was with her publicist. She was laughing. She's having a bloody good time. She didn't have any bruising. She said she was wearing makeup. It didn't look like she was. I don't know about you, but if you're making a report public about sexual assault or any type of real assault, you're not going to be laughing and smiling about it with your friends or publicists. You're not going to do that. It is serious shit and everything. And my God, she's such a bullshitter.
Number 3, the statement was seen by someone other than Ms. Heard. And number 4, the statement is false. And if Ms. Heard further proved by clear and convincing evidence, number 5, that the statement by Mr. Waldman was made with actual malice. If Ms. Heard failed to prove any one or more of the 5 elements above, then you shall find then you may award punitive damages to punish Ms. Heard for such actions and to serve as an example to prevent others from making such statements in the future.
Yada, yada,
You must state separate.
It's just to get out of a bad situation that's happening.
And now, a moment of
In
silence
Australia, when we
for
had the
Amber
big fight
Heard's
where I lost
funeral.
the tip of my finger, at least 5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms I went to
avoid talking to me, to
To
avoid
escape
working it
the-
out.
Okay.
That's
to
the
escape
problem.
the fight.
It was
which
allowed,
she said
obviously,
she was
so-
donating to 2 charities, the ACLU and the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. The ACLU, they got less than $1 million from her. And the Children's Hospital, they got $250,000. But that didn't stop Ms. Heard from telling the world that she donated everything, because remember, she
I gotta
wanted
hear this
nothing.
shit.
No, Amber, I don't regret. I don't regret.
Oh, what else?
I
What
don't
else
regret.
are you? Oh, come on.
don't
Fever.
regret.
Come
don't
on.
regret.
Lay it on me. What else? What else other things do you want to add?
Can't talk
You
to me,
fucking
son.
lying piece of
Bobby,
shit.
but-
What? Oh,
Turn
no,
the
I
kids
want to
off.
know.
Yeah.
I want
Get out of your Uber driver.
Gonna waiting. Go get it.
Yeah,
Wait, is there no other place for you to run in your 1,500 houses to go run? Come on, go be a real married man. Go deal with your shit the way that a man does. Go run to the next house. Every man does.
Yeah.
Go.
Go.
Run away.
This is the real Ms. Heard, the one in the audio recordings, not the one you saw in this courtroom. What you didn't hear on a single recording you heard in this case, and there were many played by both parties, is Mr. Depp ever admitting to hitting, punching, or kicking Ms. Heard. You didn't hear it. It doesn't exist. It didn't happen. And despite the fact that Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard are heard discussing many of the alleged incidents you've heard about at this trial, like Australia and the Bahamas, you never heard Ms. Heard accuse Mr. Depp of sexual assault. Unlike Mr. Depp, who you heard admit to and own up to his past mistakes and his struggles, particularly with drugs and alcohol, Ms. Heard will not admit that she has ever done anything wrong. But she cannot deny what you heard on those recordings. As much as Ms. Heard and her lawyers have tried to make this case about Mr. Depp's language, it is Ms. Heard that repeatedly admits to violence. By April and May of 2016, Mr. Depp had reached his limit. His mother was dying. His finances were a mess. And when he showed up late to Ms. Heard's 30th birthday party because a meeting with his new business manager, Edward White, had gone late, Ms. Heard, of course, was not understanding. She was furious. You heard from Mr. Depp, both in this courtroom and on audio recordings, that Ms. Heard punched him that evening. He left with Travis McGivern, and the next morning he learned that someone had left feces on his bed. Ms. Heard denies responsibility, but she admitted to the
that
prank
takes a
to
lot.
Sterling Jenkins.
That's pretty
You heard him
sick
testify
shit
to that
right there.
effect. For almost a month after that, they didn't see each other. And you heard from Mr. Depp that when his
A whole
mother
month.
died
Wow.
on May 20th, 2016, he resolved to leave Ms. Heard. He was done. And when Ms. Heard learned that Mr. Depp was done, that she was really losing him, she went on the attack. She filed for divorce before Mr. Depp could.
Oh,
Then,
I
as
see.
you heard from
That's
Mr.
how you
Depp's
do it. We
divorce
want to
lawyer,
look like a
Laura
victim.
Wasser, Ms. Heard sent a
You do
letter
it before the other
demanding
person
financial
does.
support.
You attack them, yeah.
And when her demands weren't met,
It's like a
Ms. Heard
reverse
struck a
psychology.
blow against Mr. Depp that was more damaging than any physical blow she had ever landed. When she walked into court
That's
6 years ago
classic
today, on May
psychological
27,
warfare right
2016, to get a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp, she did so in front of paparazzi with a
Yep.
mark on her face. The evidence
TMZ.
presented at this trial demonstrates that Ms. Heard didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to ruin him.
Yep.
Ms. Heard denied alerting TMZ to the TRO filing in this courtroom.
He
But you heard
said that
testimony
she
from
did.
Morgan
She
Tremaine
did alert TMZ.
that TMZ knew to go to the courthouse,
Yep.
knew what side of her face the
Yep.
alleged bruise was on, and that Ms. Heard would
Amen,
pause.
sister.
She would pause for paparazzi, who got the photos that ended up splashed across newspapers and magazines. Ms. Heard testified that she did not personally give photographs of her apparent injuries to People magazine, but somehow these pictures that she took and maintained on her devices ended up on the cover of People magazine 1 month later.
There is no bruising. That's lighting. That's enhancing the photo. There's no bruising there.
In the end, she walked away with $7 million without any tax liabilities,
Oh my
which she
God.
said she was donating to 2 charities, the ACLU and the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. The ACLU, they got less than $1 million from her. And the
Listen,
Children's Hospital, they got $250,000.
Ouch. That's
But
fucked
that
up.
didn't stop Ms. Heard from telling the world that she donated everything, because remember, she wanted nothing. And she had donated everything. The word donated.
Yep.
And that didn't stop her from testifying under the penalty of perjury that she had donated it. Ms. Heard tried to tell you that pledge and donate mean the same thing. She claims she hasn't given the money because she was sued, but you've heard uncontested evidence that she had the money for 13 months prior to this lawsuit being commenced by Mr. Depp. She had all the money and had month after month after month to fulfill her pledge and actually donate the money. But she didn't. She also told you that she never fulfilled the pledge because Mr. Depp sued her for defamation. That's a blatant lie. It was Ms. Heard who fired the first shot after the divorce was finalized, when she sought to initiate an arbitration against Mr. Depp for defamation 3 months before the op-ed was even published, and 6 months before Mr. Depp filed this lawsuit. Not only does this contradict Ms. Heard's excuse for not making donations, it contradicts her narrative that she just wants to move on with her life, that she just wants Mr. Depp to leave her alone. Lies. That is Ms. Heard's narrative. Lies upon lies.
Yep. Lots of lies. What she's good at. Does she have to look over?
There allegedly were all kinds of accusations flying your way when you said
okay,
all
I see
this,
what
and
they're
then
doing.
there was a divorce
That,
settlement. You got
get this
$7
video.
million. People were saying this is all about the money, but then you did something
Isn't
that
that
twisted
Swedish?
that whole argument. What did you do with that money?
$7 million in total was
Norwegian?
donated to, I
Most
split it between the
familiar, but also
ACLU
different
and
language
Children's
sometimes.
Hospital of Los Angeles.
ACLU is a human
No.
rights organization.
Sorry, ACLU is a prominent organization, nonprofit organization in the
just-
United States.
Yeah.
It's called the American
Right.
Civil Liberties Union, and they work on behalf of marginalized
She
communities
looks like she's offended that she's being
on the
asked
ground
this.
and in legislative reform.
Right.
And
Well, more power to you, because that's something that I've never
I
heard
wanted
of.
nothing.
Yeah, that's because it didn't happen. That's why we never heard of it.
When you catch Miss Heard in a lie, she tries to cover it up with more lies.
Yep.
So let's talk about the giant lie at the heart of
She
this
can't
case.
even cry when she's...
Miss Heard's claim that Mr. Depp is an abusive monster
Yes.
and that she is a public figure representing domestic abuse. At the
She
start of
does
this
not know
case,
what domestic
Mr. Chu and I
abuse is.
told you that you were going to hear some disturbing and graphic tales of abuse from Miss Heard, and they were designed to shock you and overwhelm you, which you have. We told you that this would be a performance, the role of her lifetime, as a heroic
was a role of her
survivor of
lifetime.
brutal abuse. When Mr. Depp brought this case for defamation, Miss Heard went all in. She spun a story of shocking, overwhelming, brutal abuse. She came into this courtroom prepared to give the performance of her life, and she gave it. Miss Heard's acting coach, Christina Sexton, testified that Miss Heard has difficulty crying when she is acting.
Yep.
You saw it. Miss Heard sobbing without tears, while spinning elaborate, exaggerated, fantastical
That says
accounts
it
of
all.
abuse, and everything going on in her mind almost a decade prior while enduring that abuse. It was a performance. She told you that what she thinks about, she told
lawyer
you what
doesn't
she
look very
thinks you need
offended.
to hear to convict this man as
She's
a
like,
domestic
yeah,
abuser and a rapist.
she's bad.
She wants you to believe that she was abused countless times. Countless times
Yep.
over the entire course of their relationship. But as Mr. Chu and I promised you, the evidence just does not bear that out. Ms. Heard has told you that she has mountains of evidence of abuse, but there are no medical records reflecting she sustained any injuries from the abuse she claims. Ms. Heard had medical professionals at her disposal: Dr. Kipper, Debbie Lloyd, her own nurse, Erin Filati, and yet there's nothing. Ms. Heard took pictures all the time. Pictures of Mr. Depp sleeping.
He has to be very tired to feel asleep like that.
Pictures of cocaine. Pictures
That'll
of
do.
property damage.
They'll knock you out.
Pictures of herself. And as an actress, she was photographed all the time. Where are the pictures of the horrific injuries Ms. Heard describes?
It looks like that Las Vegas, loathing Las Vegas.
Ms. Heard also took audio recordings and videos frequently. Where are the videos of Mr. Depp attacking her?
Yes, where are
Where are
they?
the audio recordings of Mr. Depp admitting to or apologizing for
Real
physical
videos, not
abuse?
doctored ones.
There are none. What Ms. Heard has, and what you've seen multiple times, is a video of Mr. Depp banging some cabinets around in a kitchen. A video that, based on the testimony you heard from Morgan Tremaine, the former TMZ employee, Ms. Heard seems to have sold to TMZ right before she was deposed in connection with her divorce from Mr. Depp.
He's nodding his head like, yes, yes, that's right, she did.
Sure, Ms. Heard can point to text messages where Mr. Depp is apologizing to her, but never for violence. Ms. Heard's counsel showed you Defendant's Exhibit 325, where Mr. Depp says sorry for, quote, my behavior. I'm a fucking savage. But this is not an apology for physical violence. It's an apology for the, quote, these heinous, slinging insults. Mr. Depp is apologizing for the words he used. Unlike Ms. Heard, who you heard apologizing for physical violence in multiple audio recordings, you have never heard that from Mr. Depp. because he never used physical violence against Ms. Heard. Ms. Heard told you that Mr. Depp started abusing her right from the very beginning of her relationship, starting at the beginning of 2012. But she has repeatedly testified under oath differently to having spent a year of bliss with Mr. Depp before he ever laid a hand on her. And now, in this courtroom, she has suddenly erased an entire year of magic. She wants you to believe that instead of hitting her after a year of magic, Mr. Depp was hitting her immediately. The good times she has testified to about repeatedly in the past apparently never happened. And with the good times erased, Ms. Heard wants you to believe that she gave Mr. Depp a big knife that said, hasta la muerte, until death, to the man who supposedly would get drunk and high and beat her. Ms. Heard admitted to you during this trial that Mr. Depp always wears big, chunky rings on every finger. According to her, he was wearing these rings when he'd slap her, hit her, punch her in the face. But you have not seen a single photograph that reflects the serious injuries Ms. Heard would have sustained if this was true. Not one. Ms. Heard testified to an incident in March 2013 when Mr. Depp supposedly hit her multiple times in the face while wearing rings. And this is what her face looked like afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell that came from. It's like that one bruise. Let me tell you.
Ms. Heard testified to an incident in
There's
Russia
a lot of different things that...
where she claims Mr. Depp whacked her in the face and gave her a bloody nose. She didn't take pictures of her bloody nose, but her photograph was taken on that trip, and this is what she looked like.
That's not a bruised face. That's not a bruised face. Because it'd be puffed up if they're
Ms.
bruises.
Heard told you that there was an incident the night of the Met Gala in May 2014 when Mr. Depp supposedly whacked Ms. Heard in the face, leaving her
Where's
with a
the
red,
evidence?
discolored, and swollen nose that she felt was broken.
If that's a
Ms. Heard
broken...
didn't show you
Okay, if that's a broken nose, it'd be swollen. Makeup cannot hide all the bruising and swelling. Only a dumb idiot would believe that she was beaten. Now that bruise on the arm, where did that come from? It could have been just from her walking into something. It could also be from sex. Who knows? I mean, Jesus Christ, I get bruised for just walking into, through the kitchen and accidentally hitting a sink, walking, a certain way, or, like you walk around to a wall, you accidentally hit your arm a certain way, and it happens. You can't say that it was being beaten up. That's complete bullshit right there.
Photographs of these alleged injuries. But photographs were taken of her the following night, and there were no visible injuries to Ms. Heard's face.
I can't believe some idiots actually believe that. She's too oh God. There's definitely evidence that.
Ms. Heard testified that in January 2015, while she and Mr. Depp were in Tokyo, Mr. Depp knelt on her back so aggressively that she was concerned that bruises would be visible in her backless dress. Here's Ms. Heard in that backless dress.
Well, he looks a bit messed up there. She looks beautiful in that dress. Just really beautiful.
Ms. Heard testified that after an incident in December 2015, she had 2 black eyes, a broken nose, and chunks of hair missing.
Yeah, where
The
is
assault
it?
was allegedly
Yeah,
so
where is
violent
it?
that there
Don't
was
bullshit,
blood
just
left
give
all
him,
over the pillows. And Mr. Depp had broken the
Oh
bed
my
frame.
God.
Pictures were taken of that bed frame.
Where's the blood? Where's the blood?
And in that picture, there appears to be a pocket knife on the bed.
God, I can't
And that picture fails to
believe
capture the bloody pillows.
she gets away with such bullshit with this. I mean, I have never.
And here is what Miss Heard looked like on the James Corden show the next day.
In some ways, you wish this was a criminal one. Yeah, there's no bruising. There's no swelling in any way.
Indeed,
in those
you heard
pictures.
from Miss Heard's
There's
own
none.
nurse, Erin Filati,
None.
that she saw her a day or two afterwards and could not visualize the injuries Miss Heard described.
Where's the proof?
Miss Heard did take pictures of herself after this alleged incident. But are the injuries reflected in these photographs consistent? That's the question. Are they consistent with the brutal assault and serious injuries Miss Heard has testified to?
Nope. No swelling.
Or
no bruising.
are these injuries more consistent with Mr. Depp's testimony
I've had
that he and Miss Heard
lots of broken
bumped heads
noses.
while he was trying to restrain Miss Heard to keep her from attacking him?
And broken ones and everything. And let me tell you, you get swelling
Out of Australia,
and everything from
where
this.
Mr. Depp sustained the most serious injury from his relationship
You're gonna
with
see
Miss
swelling.
Heard.
You're gonna
Miss Heard
see
spun a story of
all
horror.
that stuff. You're gonna see purple.
A 3-day
Even
ordeal
with
with
all the
a
makeup in the
drug-fueled
world,
Mr. Depp violently assaulting her,
you're gonna see it.
cutting his own finger off, dragging her through glass, and then bending her back over a counter and raping her with a whiskey bottle. She claimed that she had bruises on her face, cuts all over her arms and feet, and was bleeding from her vagina from the sexual assault.
That's the thing. And why did you call the police?
And what
why
did
did
Miss
you go
Heard
to the
say she
hospital?
did? She went
Like you're
upstairs,
supposed to do.
took some
And
sleeping
have
pills,
the district
and went to
attorneys
sleep.
and the police have him arrested.
The next morning,
Because it never
she
happened.
took pictures of
It
the mirrors
never,
her husband had
ever
written on in
happened.
paint using his amputated finger.
Using
took
his
no pictures
amputated
of
finger.
herself.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Her alleged injuries, or the property damage she testified to in this courtroom. When Malcolm Connolly, Jerry Judge, Dr. Kipper, and Nurse Debbie Lloyd arrived to extract Mr. Depp and get him medical treatment for his finger injury, you heard from Mr. Connolly, Dr. Kipper, and Miss Lloyd. All of them testified they did not observe any injuries to Miss Heard. And no one,
No
including
injuries.
Miss Heard, testified
None.
that she sought medical treatment.
They could say this
You also heard from Ben
because this
King.
is closing arguments.
He also saw Miss Heard right after.
Okay. Otherwise, the defense would be objecting like crazy. But in closing arguments, both sides could get away with doing this without objection. It's up to the jury to discern fact from fiction with all of the stuff that they have gotten from the trial, the evidence, and then decide from that. And a lot of times can't tell how a jury's going to vote because if they don't like the way a person looks, then they'll just vote guilty or not guilty with that.
After this alleged incident, he flew home with her to Los Angeles. He
Yeah,
testified
why
that
are
Miss Heard
they,
didn't want to
flying
leave.
together
That she said, I can't
after
leave,
a
I can't
sexual
leave.
assault?
It will be the end if I leave. He also testified that once they did leave for Los Angeles, Miss Heard asked him if he ever got so mad he just lost it. When Miss Heard arrived in Los Angeles, she saw Travis McGivern, who also testified he observed no injuries,
No injuries.
and her personal nurse, Erin Filati, who documented no requests for medical treatment and no injuries in her nursing notes. for
Nurse,
Miss Heard.
certified nurse.
You heard from Mr. Depp's sister, Christy,
shit.
that she also saw Miss Heard when she arrived
Fucking
back to
nurse.
Los Angeles and observed no injuries on Miss Heard. Christy testified that when she told Miss Heard her fighting with Mr. Depp was unsustainable, Miss Heard responded that Christy should get off her cross. that Mr. Depp liked her feisty. Ms. Heard's testimony about what occurred in Australia just doesn't add up. That's because there was a monster in that house in Australia, but it wasn't Mr. Depp. It was Ms. Heard. Other than Ms. Heard's testimony, all the evidence you've seen in this trial shows that it was Ms. Heard who attacked and grievously wounded Mr. Depp when she threw a vodka bottle at him, severing his finger. Mr. Depp told Dr. Kipper that when Dr. Kipper arrived to treat Mr. Depp's finger. You've seen the pictures of the bar area in Australia with the broken vodka bottles on the ground and trails of blood drops on the floor and a bloody tissue on the floor. You've heard from Ben King that the tip of Mr. Depp's finger was found in the same bar area.
His finger.
And you heard from Dr. Gilbert that the injury to Mr. Depp's finger could have been caused exactly as
He's
he
feeling
described.
it right there.
And interestingly, you
He's
heard
feeling
from
that.
Christina Sexton that Ms. Heard told her
It
that
does,
Mr. Depp
it
injured
is
his
still
finger
even there.
while swinging a bottle around. Not smashing a phone, as Ms. Heard surmised in this courtroom, but swinging a bottle around. You also heard from Ms. Sexton that Ms. Heard first told her about the bottle rape in Australia while Ms. Sexton was at Ms. Heard's home, meeting with her lawyers the day before Ms. Sexton was scheduled to be deposed in this case. The evidence presented at this trial shows that this is not the only time that Ms. Heard disclosed a sexual assault at a convenient time for purposes of litigation she's involved in. The first time Ms. Heard claimed that Mr. Depp sexually assaulted her in the Bahamas in December 2015 was after Tara Roberts, the manager of Mr. Depp's island, submitted a sworn statement in the UK action describing the incident she testified to in this courtroom, where Ms. Heard chased Mr. Depp out of the house, was yelling and then pleading with Mr. Depp to stay while clawing at his hair and clothes, and left Mr. Depp with an injury to his face. That's the first time she disclosed it, after there was contrary evidence. Ms. Heard testified about another incident just 2 weeks after the events in Australia, where Mr. Depp supposedly attacked Ms. Heard and almost pushed her sister Whitney down the stairs. Whitney is the only witness that you heard from that backs up Ms. Heard's version of events. She's it. And the only witness, other than Ms.
her
Heard, who
sister
claims
was
to have
family.
seen
It's like
Mr.
you're
Depp physically
obligated
attack Ms. Heard.
to entertain the
But
lie.
just like Ms. Heard's version of the events in Australia, her testimony
Just a second. Be right back.
about the staircase incident and that of her sister Whitney's just doesn't square up with the other evidence in this trial. Their testimony is contradicted by the testimony of Travis McGivern and Debbie Lloyd, who were there that night. Ms. Heard and Whitney testified that Mr. Depp threw a Red Bull can that hit or almost hit Ms. Lloyd. Ms. Lloyd testified that never happened.
Excuse me.
Mr. McGivern testified that it was Ms. Heard who threw a can at Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard testified that Whitney was between her and Mr. Depp when she punched him. Mr. McGivern testified that he was the one between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp when Ms. Heard punched Mr. Depp.
Yep.
Ms. Heard testified that Mr. Depp was able to get his hands in her hair, yank her, and then hit her in the face with the cast he had on. But you heard from Ms. Lloyd and Dr. Colbert, Mr. Depp's medical doctor, who treated Mr. Depp's finger injury, that Mr. Depp's finger was in a delicate state. He had a pin in his finger, a skin graft, and a soft cast that immobilized Mr. Depp's two middle fingers.
He wasn't
And
even
tellingly,
able to hit her.
the only picture of an injury from this incident is of Mr. Depp with a shiner.
Yep.
And then we have May 21st, 2016. Ms. Heard testified that Mr. Depp threw a phone at her face, causing a visible injury. Ms. Heard has shown you pictures she claims to show this injury. But these photographs are not to be trusted. You heard from Mr. Neumeister that, like many of the photographs Ms. Heard has presented in this case, these photos were stored in a photo editing application. And these photos show signs of manipulation.
Yeah, they show manipulation as they found in evidence.
These two photographs were taken at the exact same
From
time
the photographic
and have the
expert that's
exact
done
same
classified
filing.
and unclassified work.
But they are visually different. One shows significantly more redness on Ms. Heard's face than the other, which doesn't show any injury at all.
Yep.
Ms. Heard testified the difference
And
explained by
the truth
turning on a
shall
light.
set you free.
But there is no way Ms. Heard could have taken a picture, turned on a light, and then taken another picture with every hair in the exact same place
You
within the
angry,
same
Miss
second.
Aberhide.
It's impossible.
You angry. Are you upset?
Moreover,
yes, they
you
can
heard
say
from
that's
multiple
closing
witnesses,
arguments.
including Officer Melissa
They
Sines,
could get away with
Officer Tyler Haddon, and Officer William Gatlin, Isaac Baruch, Alejandro Romero, who saw Ms. Heard on or after May 21st, and saw no injuries to her face before she showed up to that courthouse with a mark on May 27th. And the very next day, after Ms. Heard walked into court with what appeared to be a bruise on her face to obtain a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard was photographed
It's usually the one
laughing
that's
with her
done
best
violence
friend,
to him.
fresh-faced, with no bruise on her face.
None. See, this is the exhibit right here that I'm talking about. Alright? Excuse me, my nose itches. I didn't take a knife, take it off her sword. Take a sword and pretty much cut this nose off right here. It's been a problem since I'm born. What? You wouldn't. Alright, look at this. This is what I'm talking about. The bullshittery. No victim of violence that I know of is laughing and having a bloody fucking good time. This screams bullshit. Look at this. Look at this. Laughing. There is something mentally so fucked up with her. And the other person for even going along with it and not saying anything. Or did she? This right here. No victim of serious crimes going to laugh and see it as a fucking joke. This is a sadistic, evil woman, I'd say. Yeah.
The mountain of evidence that
Looks
Mr.
like she
Depp
just come
abused
from a
Ms. Heard
party.
is simply not there.
She just came from a party.
What we have is a mountain of unproven allegations that are wild, over the top, and implausible. And you can't pick and choose which of these wild allegations to believe and which ones to disregard. You either believe all of it or none of it. Either Mr. Depp sexually assaulted Ms. Heard with a bottle in Australia, or Ms. Heard got up on that stand in front of all of you and made up that horrific tale of abuse. Either she's a victim of truly horrific abuse, or she is a woman who is willing to say absolutely anything. It is disturbing to think that Ms. Heard would make up the horrific tales of abuse that she testified to in this courtroom. But this case doesn't come down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp. This case comes down to whether you believe Ms. Heard or you believe Mr. Depp, Christy Dombrowski, Sean Bett, Malcolm Connolly,
all these other people,
Travis McGivern,
all these other people that testified against Amber Heard, okay? And a good amount that weren't allowed to get on stand. Only one person, Amber Heard's sister, was willing to testify and back her up. Out of all these people, everyone is lying except you, Amber Heard. Everyone, the whole world is against you, Amber Heard. You are a victim of the whole world, Amber Heard. It all sounds like me, like I'm a victim of everything. Anyways, I digress from that statement. My bloody God. It's like, how could a person live like, shit.
Starling Jenkins, Keenan Wyatt, Dr. Kipper, nurses Debbie Lloyd and Erin Filati, Tara Roberts, Ben King, Kate James, Kate Moss, Dr. Colber, Morgan Knight, Morgan Tremaine, Officers Melissa Sines, Officers Tyler Haddon,
reporter.
Officer William Gatlin, and Beverly Leonard.
Okay, yeah, officers and people in law enforcement said that Amber Heard was not telling the truth, that she did not have these bruises, that all this stuff, all these claims that she has claimed were utter nonsense, utter lies. When a lot of times it was Johnny Depp that was the victim of an assault and battery. But the thing is because he's a guy, she could get away with this. Because it's the guy, a woman could get away with the crime of assault and battery. Happens every day, every hour, every minute of the day. That a woman could abuse a man because our society is so fucked up the ass that a man, if he says something, he is a pussy. He is a piece of shit. And he shouldn't be allowed to live for complaining. However, a woman could do whatever the hell she wants.
What Ms. Heard testified to in this courtroom is the story of far too many women. But the overwhelming evidence and weight of that evidence shows that it's not her story. It's not Ms. Heard's story. It was an act of profound cruelty, not just to Mr. Depp, but to true survivors of domestic abuse. For Ms. Heard to hold herself out as a public figure representing domestic abuse. It was false, it was defamatory, and it caused irreparable harm. And to talk more about that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and my friend, Mr. Chu.
Yeah, you did a good job, Camille. She did a very good job. And like I said, she is passionate about this case. They've gotten to know each other. She's been with him since the UK case. And the UK, God, that was so fucked up bullshit. How they say that she got away with a bit, but she got away with murder in a way. But, it's disgusting. Um, how a woman can get away with this. And I know some women that I know won't like me being negative. Um, but it's a fact, things have to change about how things are very two-faced, and there's a double standard of how a woman can treat a man and a man can treat a woman. It's terrible. I know from personal experience. Um, she did a good job. He's happy with that. She did a good job. Why you actually shed tears? If you're capable. Look at that, he's smiling. You know, they have a lot of respect.
Thank you,
for each
Camille.
other.
Logistics
This
are not
is
our strong
actually
suit.
beautiful. I
And
never said
thanks
that
to
about
all of you,
the
truly,
court case.
for taking so much time over these last several weeks to listen to Mr. Depp, to his friends, to his family, and to so many others who have come forward physically in this courtroom, some from a very long distance, to tell you the truth, and to finally, after so many years, to correct the record. As Ms. Vasquez said, you have now come to know the real Amber Heard. Scary.
That is scary, yeah.
We also told you at the start of this trial that you were going to come to know the real Johnny Depp, not the many characters you've seen him play.
I gotta say this.
So
I gotta say this. I wonder if she's capable of feeling guilt. I have not seen her feel bad, where if I do something bad, really bad, I need to be shaking, or if I feel stressed out over stuff, I shake. Okay, I get stressed out. And even if I'm in the right about certain things, I get physically ill. And I try to work things out. I want to with people as much as possible, unless they have done something very bad in attacking me. You know, really, really bad to me. At which point, you know, I just tell them, fuck you. I don't want to ever talk with you or ever, you know, or whatever. So
wonderfully in the movies. But the man himself, we kept that promise.
I would be smiling.
You've met the real Johnny
Oh my
Depp.
God, there's something just wrong.
You have heard that
with
Mr. Depp
Your
came.
case is so bad. Okay, even if she wasn't right, that smile. That smile. Okay.
You've met
Okay.
the real Johnny Depp.
How
You have
she's
heard that
taking it.
Mr. Depp.
I'd be shaking. I'd be shaking like a bear is about to devour me, just about, or is just waiting for me to make a stupid move, is waiting to kill me as a piece of prey. If I was her, and I was even if I wasn't right, I would be in dread. I'd be scared shitless.
Depp came from humble, very difficult beginnings. You have heard from Mr. Depp's big sister,
My
who's
God,
here in the
there's just
courtroom
something
today, Christy Dombrowski, who told you how Mr.
Something wrong from a psychological point. And you can see him, his face, He's not like
Depp
me.
grew up in a deeply troubled household with a mother, Betty Sue, who was physically abusive and mentally cruel. As Ms. Dombrowski testified, one of the names that Betty Sue called Mr. Depp when he was a little boy was One Eye, because he had to wear an eye patch for some time. His mother used to hit his father and the kids, including young Mr. Depp. And when his mother got violent, Mr. Depp would retreat and find a place to hide. Sometimes he and his sister Christy would find a place to hide together. Mr. Depp never hit back. And like his father, he either stood up and took the violence or he retreated from it. Those are habits he returned to later.
Again, they could get away with this because this is closing arguments. So normally in a trial, okay, they wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't closing arguments. They'd be able to object. They wouldn't be able to say this. Because this isn't, I don't know how they, this isn't really the scope of the case. This is a defamation thing that has to do with Amber Heard. So,
when he found himself in a relationship with another person who returned his love with abuse, with physical abuse. And despite this long, unhappy history with his mother, Johnny never turned his back on her. In her elder years, Mr. Depp moved his mother to California, and he moved her to Los Angeles right across the street from his house, so his two children could get to know her. He hired nurses for his mother. He made sure to take care of her and to make her comfortable. She never went to hospice. She had the nurses make her comfortable to the day she died. And from those humble and difficult beginnings, Mr. Depp grew into one of the greatest actors and movie stars of his generation.
so you
Now,
got,
he came
you
to
got
Los
all
Angeles
legal
with his
lawyers
first
there.
love as a young man, planning to be a musician. Music had
That's why
been
they're
a part
going
of
to
his
the-
life ever since he found peace himself in his room as a young.
Now yesterday, of course, with what happened with Amber, they laughed out loud and were in awe and gasped and everything because of all the BS that Amber Heard has done, with all the evidence that has happened, going back on her with her lies.
Young boy when he was escaping, and he learned to play the guitar and would use it as solace. But it was an actor as his star began its rise, as he appeared in films too many to mention, including, of course, his iconic role as Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Fame came with challenges to Mr. Depp and his family. It was a strange experience for a shy young man from Kentucky to be thrust into the limelight, pursued by paparazzi, and to have even his very name become a brand. But he did his best to live a private, quiet life, and despite it all, and over the years built a reputation as a respected artist and as a decent, very well-liked man, which you've heard from many people. Mr. Depp dated major figures like Winona Ryder, Kate Moss,
Yeah.
and Vanessa Paradis, with whom he spent 14 years together and with whom they had
No writers.
their children. Before Amber Heard, ladies and gentlemen, no woman ever before Amber Heard ever claimed that Mr. Depp raised a hand to her in his 58 years. And no other woman since Ms. Heard made that false claim back on May 27th, 2016, and repeated it in her December 2018 op-ed. Has any woman come forward since? This is Me Too without any Me Too.
I hate to say this because in a lot of ways, if I was a lawyer, I'd say, no one else has come against you, right, Johnny? Nothing we don't know about? I hate to say it, but I would be.
To the contrary, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Kate Moss 2 days ago testify. This is a woman who has never testified in any proceeding, ever. A very private person. Testified that Mr. Depp never abused her and that Ms. Heard lied to you. And she lied to you twice when she told you.
Objection, Your Honor. That, Miss, sure.
Now there's, ew, boy. That's get his money's worth. This is closing arguments. So just let it go. They always do this. Both sides do this. Let it go.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, Ms. Heard lied to you twice when she suggested to you that Mr. Depp.
Oh my God!
pushed
That.
Kate
Oh
Moss
my
down.
God! I know this happened, but did. Oh my God! They lost. Oh my fucking God! He's
You
about
told
to
her,
tear up.
you
It
heard
was
her
like,
say
he really
just
wishes he
2
wasn't
days ago
there.
that
Looks like he's about to cry.
Mr. Depp never did that.
Why the fuck
and
am
he
I
never
here?
hit her,
Can I go
and he
home?
never.
Cry to my
kicked her.
mother.
That was one of the.
Objection, Your
Why?
Honor. That's not
My
what you
kids.
testified
It's
to.
exactly
We
what
just
you
discussed that.
testified. Thank you, Your Honor. We're
That's
still at it.
as is.
Ms. Heard and her lawyers have spent much of this trial
Let it go.
talking about
It's
drugs
closing
and
arguments,
alcohol.
boys, girls.
Mr. Depp is no saint, and he has never claimed to be one. He has made mistakes in his life, as we all have. Yes, he has struggled with drugs and alcohol, but you never
Just
heard
like
him
how-
deny them.
Well,
We
it's
told
closing
you in
arguments.
the opening statement. He owns his flaws. He admits to them. He told you all about them.
Yeah.
But he is not a violent abuser. He's not abuser, as Ms. Heard claims. And he did not and does not
Write her own
deserve to
stupid-
have his life.
Is she gonna write her own freaking novel? Along with Elaine here. This guy is looking like he's going to die. Look, his eyes are closed. It's like, oh my fucking God. Let me die. Let's just get away from here. I pretend this is nothing but a bad dream. Okay? This is pretty much what it is. It's like, I want to go home to whoever. I just want to cry or just want to go to sleep. Meditation. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3. And forget. Cal God, take me away. Take a bubble bath and pretend. She's like, do I have to take this? Yes, you do. It's closing arguments, dear.
Legacy destroyed by a vicious lie.
Like,
And this
can I
is,
go home
as Ms.
now?
Vasquez said, this is the 6th anniversary of that.
Well, she's a lawyer,
There
so
is
she's
a
saying that.
world of difference between having substance abuse problems
Worse.
and being a physical abuser. Ms. Heard falsely accused Mr. Depp of beating her. That was her first allegation, and you know why, and you know that wasn't true. Then, years after the fact, for the first time, she accused him of raping her. The lies have grown and metastasized over time, and they need to be stopped. And those false accusations have caused more harm to Mr. Depp than her fists ever did.
That is something. Words can kill a person more than any weapon on earth. Words kill more often than weapons. Because you have to say the words to physically enact the acts of war.
And make no mistake, Ms. Heard has admitted, unlike Mr. Depp, Ms. Heard has admitted on the audio tapes you've heard at this trial, and Ms. Vasquez just played you a few of them, she has admitted repeatedly
Please don't fall asleep.
physically abusing Mr. Depp. And I would just like to take a minute to talk about the harm to Mr. Depp and his family.
It actually looks like
You
he's
have
about to fall
heard
asleep.
from several of the people in Mr. Depp's life about the damage Ms. Heard's lies have done to him. You heard from his sister, Christy, who told you how hard it has been on his family and on her little brother personally. You heard from Mr. Depp's friend of 4 decades, and that speaks volumes about Mr. Depp. He has lifetime friends who appear for him. Mr. Baruch told you how Mr. Depp and his family had been, quote, completely
Is she
wrecked,
telling him to
unquote, by
object?
Ms. Heard's lies. You heard Mr. Depp testify that he has lost nothing.
Yeah, she's gonna. I see them appealing this. She wants them to do stuff they cannot do, and they're trying to. Elaine, she could have done a bit better with this case of it, but that's another video with some other stuff. She did actually try a lot of times, and she was shut down.
Nothing less than everything because of Ms. Heard's lies. Nothing less than everything. You heard about Mr. Depp's children, Jack and Lily Rose. His children have had to hear these allegations since 2016. And then
That's a good reason to sue for defamation and everything. You have children, you have family. You have to defend yourself, your honor, and everything else. Most people cannot afford $1 million lawyers. And that's the travesty of our justice system. That you or I, just a person off the street, cannot sue people for defamation. But, what's going on?
And when that started to die down, they had to hear them again. This time in December 2018, this time in the Washington Post, which is a national and international publication. And Mr. Depp has had to live with the knowledge that his children will keep hearing those false rumors and statements against him. Mr. Depp has millions of fans, people who grew up watching him on 21 Jump Street, which is something you heard Miss Heard mom.
Look at that, his face is like,
to you. Or they grew up
shameless
watching him
plug
play
it.
the swashbuckling pirate Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean
shameless
movies,
plug
or
in.
Willy Wonka.
Someone Jump Street, I remember watching
Mr.
it.
Depp means something to those people. And those people mean a lot to Mr. Depp. He's a fond memory from childhood or adolescence or adulthood. And to tarnish him as an abuser is to destroy him in the eyes of many of these people who will never look at him the same way again. And because of what Ms. Heard did, and because of what she said, Mr. Depp will go to his grave knowing no matter what he does, no matter the outcome of this trial, there are people who used to look up to him who now believe that he beat a woman, which is the worst thing you can say about a man. Beyond the personal and emotional effects of
That's the worst thing in life, is how somebody could do that to a person. And you'll never get that honor back, you'll never get that reputation back, because some people are stupid enough to believe the lies of another person. And it happens so much with women that even if it's not true, like I talk about Vic Mignogna with Funimation and with the sexual allegations That didn't happen. Two consenting adults having an affair. She was cheating on her man. And then she tried to make herself a victim when there's evidence to the contrary. I'd like to see Vic Mignogna take her to court. That bitch to court. I really would. But
of Ms. Heard's lies, their impact on Mr. Depp and his family, the damage she inflicted on his reputation and career is undeniable. There's an old saying that a good reputation takes a lifetime to build, but only a second to destroy. Mr. Depp spent, in fact, a lifetime building his reputation as one of the greatest actors and movie stars of his generation. An iconic figure respected and liked throughout Hollywood and recognized and admired throughout the world. You heard evidence from Jack Wiggum, who was here today, Mr. Depp's agent, who explained that Mr. Depp, quote, was very well regarded and respected by peers in the artistic community. He's good. He's good, but... And you heard further testimony from Mr. Wiggum that Mr. Depp had a deal with Disney to play Captain Jack Sparrow in the 6th movie sequel of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise for $22.5 million. But, as Mr. Wiggum explained, all of that changed when Ms. Heard published her op-ed in December of 2018 in the Washington Post. Quoting from the testimony you heard by Mr. Wiggum, quote, after the op-ed, it was impossible to get him a studio film, which is what we normally would have focused on in that time period, unquote. Another quote, it was on the damage, the impact of this op-ed, as opposed to the other story.
The problem is, here, is that Disney, they're so full of shit and political bullshit, is that they believed Amber Heard over him without evidence. There's evidence against Amber Heard to the infinite degree, okay? The bullshit that Disney has done to people over stupid politics and everything is one reason why I hate Disney. It's not the same company. Disney's not Disney. I speak from personal experience from knowing stuff and everything. How, anyways, it's just like what they did in ruining Johnny Depp. I'd probably go after Disney. I would. I'll see how he could. They got billions against a millionaire. They'd probably get thrown out or something. I don't know. I don't think he's going to do that. But they should be held liable, Disney, as well as Amber Heard.
Stories that you saw, the other publications. Mr. Wiggum explained why this one was so damaging. Quote, it was a first-person account. I mean, from the victim. It's extremely impactful. You know, with respect to Johnny, it was catastrophic because it was coming from a first-person account. It was not from a journalist. It was coming from someone observing. It was from someone saying, this happened to me, unquote. You also heard from Richard Marks, an expert in the inner workings of Hollywood and the entertainment industry, who explained that the impact of Ms. Heard's allocations on Mr. Depp was devastating. Quote, it's devastating. It's the type of claim, the Me Too claim of sexual violence, domestic abuse, that has canceled a list of actors, unquote. And for many, and Mr. Depp would agree with this, rightfully so, Me Too is an important movement, a movement that Mr. Depp supports and believes in. It's for true survivors of abuse, not Ms. Heard. True victims need protection, and true perpetrators need to face the repercussions. But as you heard in this case, Amber Heard is not a true victim, and Mr. Depp certainly is not an abuser. Again, nobody has come out of the woodwork to say, Me Too. This is the unique and singular Me Too case where there's not a single Me Too. In fact,
Amen.
to the contrary,
Amen, brother.
Kate Moss, who was in a romantic relationship with Mr. Depp for 3 years, which he broke off, came forward to say, no, he never pushed her down any stairs. And you heard Doug Banya, an expert in internet and social media analytics, testify.
And Amber Heard said that those were lies. That he probably paid her or whatever, that out of the woodwork.
To the impact that Ms. Heard's allegations had on Mr. Depp's popularity. Ms. Heard's lawyers tried to tell you that all of the damage done to Mr. Depp's career was because of his own behavior, because he was sometimes unprofessional or sometimes late to set. But that doesn't hold up. Mr. Depp has been a major figure in Hollywood for decades. Yes, Mr. Depp was late to set sometimes. But as Richard Marks testified, quote, when you hire Johnny Depp, you get all of Johnny Depp, which includes being late, unquote.
Look at her
Keenan
shaking
Wyatt,
her head.
who has worked for decades
It's like, yes,
as a sound engineer.
Camille, I mean, geez, she's really for Johnny Depp passionately. This is a lawyer that I would love, everyone would love to have on their side. This is not somebody you'd want against you in the court with claws and razor teeth, waiting to sink her teeth into you. This is not a woman or anyone that I'd want on my bad side. And she's smiling and she's like, yes, that's right. She really believes in Johnny Depp, which is rare to see with lawyers. Because usually it's just a business
On
transaction.
some of Mr. Depp's films, said much the same thing. And by the way, Mr. Wyatt is not and never has been an employee of Mr. Depp. He's just worked with him on movies. Mr. Depp wasn't canceled by Hollywood because he was sometimes late to set. He was canceled because Ms. Heard falsely accused him of domestic violence and sexual violence
in
in
politics.
pages of the
The
Washington
sexual
Post
violence, that
on
just,
December 18,
that
2018,
does it. But
repeating the prior lies of May 17th, 2000.
the thing is, these days, from the get-go, people should have fucking evidence. She never had evidence. She never, ever had evidence against him. And stupid Disney just threw him away like a piece of trash. That's unforgivable.
16. And as you saw at trial, Ms. Heard published the op-ed on December 18, 2018, 2 years after her public allegations of domestic abuse. Ms. Heard's publication
still writing
of
notes.
the op-ed
What's wrong with you?
coincided with the release of her major movie Aquaman that December.
Write your
And it
fiction
coincided
book
as well with
on
her
him.
announcement on Twitter
Just as long
that
as
she was
it's
becoming
known
an
as fiction.
ACLU ambassador for women's rights. And in that op-ed, Ms. Heard repeated her false allegations against Mr. Depp. Now, she didn't mention his name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly who and what Ms. Heard was talking about. Ms. Heard got on the stand and tried to tell you that the op-ed was not about Mr. Depp. She then said, well, it wasn't just about Mr. Depp. But she couldn't deny, and this was yesterday, that this was at least partly about Mr. Depp. The op-ed obviously is about Mr. Depp, and the testimony at trial proves that.
Yeah.
You will recall testimony from the ACLU's representative, an attorney,
Well, she
stating
wonders
that
they could
Mr.
be paying
Depp's
for her
name
legal
was
fees.
included in drafts of the op-ed, and that they and others understood that the op-ed was about Mr. Depp. Specifically, the ACLU representative testified, among other things, quote, based on my review of prior drafts of the op-ed, I knew that she was referring to Johnny Depp and the marriage, unquote. Ms. Heard's claim that the op-ed is not about Mr. Depp is just another one of her many, many lies. In fact, what you have seen time and time again through the course of this trial is that Ms. Heard lies. She lies all the time
looks like
about
he's
things
an
that are
alternate.
important and the things that aren't important. She just can't seem to
In a
stop.
different
And as
reality
Ms.
somewhere.
Vasquez said,
About to fall
what she
asleep. He's
routinely
barely-
does is she doesn't take ownership or responsibility for anything, and she has an excuse for everything. But in this courtroom, confronted with the evidence,
She's good.
she
She's
can't
good.
run
Not
away
her.
from her own
Good.
words. As my colleague said, words matter, and Ms. Heard is condemned by her own words. So Tom, let's please take a look at the words she used in her op-ed, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, and which Ms. Heard published in December 2018, 2 years after she first publicly accused Mr. Depp
That's
of being
because
an
she's full of
abuser on May
shit.
27,
She's a
2016.
fucking liar.
The title
That's
of
why
the
she-
op-ed reads, as you
That's
can-
why she's getting attacked now, because she was found out from the beginning that she is a habitual sadistic liar and everything, and it's just, oh God.
you can see, quote, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change, unquote. Below that, Ms. Heard states, quote, then 2 years ago I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women.
She's not a representative in any way. She's a representative of bullshitting. She's a representative of black people.
To speak out, unquote. And below that, Ms. Heard states, quote, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse, unquote. Each of those statements clearly refers to Ms. Heard's allegations against Mr. Depp. And taken collectively, their message and their implication about Mr. Depp is clear, i.e. that Ms. Heard is a survivor of domestic abuse and that Mr. Depp is a perpetrator. The context in the rest of the op-ed makes that clear as well. Consider, for instance, this line, quote, imagine a powerful man as a ship, like the Titanic. That ship is a huge enterprise. When it strikes an iceberg, there are a lot of people on board desperate to patch up holes. Not because they believe in or even care about the ship, but because their own
Usually
fates depend
politics.
upon the enterprise, unquote. Everyone in Hollywood knew, and everyone in this courtroom now knows exactly what Ms. Heard intended those words to mean. The ship, the Titanic, is Mr. Depp. And Ms.
She's
Heard
the
was the
Titanic.
iceberg that sank him.
She,
That's precisely what Ms. Heard was saying in the op-ed. And in just the same way, everyone in Hollywood knew, and Hollywood and elsewhere knew exactly what Ms. Heard meant by the words, quote, 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, unquote. That was a clear reference to the day 2 years earlier, on May 27th, 2016. And as Ms. Vasquez said, that was 6 years to the day. That's when his life ended. That was 6 years ago to this day, when Ms. Heard, on May 27th, 2016, walked into court with her publicist, Jody Gottlieb,
yep.
having tipped off TMZ, with an alleged mark on her face to accuse Mr. Depp of abuse.
It wasn't even a mark either.
As
There wasn't
always,
anything there.
as always, Ms. Heard was quite mindful of her image.
But she was laughing
She was
about the
careful
whole
to portray
incident.
herself as the
Smiling,
innocent
laughing like
representative
she
of
just got
abuse
out of a
survivors,
party.
and by implication, Mr. Depp as the perpetrator of domestic abuse. She was the woman who, in the words of her title, supposedly, quote, spoke up against sexual violence, unquote. Now, Ms. Heard has done a lot to try to walk away from the title in particular. That's true to form. She has testified that she didn't write it, and she will argue later that she shouldn't be held liable because she didn't write it. But as the court's instructions, which you heard this morning, make clear, Ms. Heard didn't have to personally write any part of the op-ed for her to defame Mr. Depp through implication in the Washington Post. And let's please, Tom,
I expect you to
turn
defense to Jeff here.
to Plaintiff's Exhibit 3. Ms. Heard, as you all can see on the screen, retweeted the article, including the title on her Twitter page. Ms. Heard put her name on it. And she
What
proudly
price
declared,
of coming
quote,
forward? There isn't these
today
days.
I published this
There's
op-ed in the
no
Washington
prize in a woman coming forward. A man will be burned alive at the fucking stake.
Post, ellipsis, unquote. Her tweet includes the title with the
Real
words,
idiot
quote,
Amber
I spoke
Heard.
up against sexual violence, unquote, prominently featured. Nowhere in this tweet or anywhere else does Ms. Heard disavow the title.
If you see what she's doing, she's saying, me, I'm a victim. Look at me. I am a victim when all this evidence says otherwise. It's the evidence. It's not my word. It's not other people's words. It's the evidence that says Amber Heard is a habitual, sadistic liar. It's just a mountain of proof against her. It's not just my word. It's not just, a few people's. It's just like all these other people are just saying she's full of bullshit. It is sick and disgusting. A pathetic kind of person would do.
The contrary. She's proclaiming it. And at the same time, Ms. Heard posted this tweet. She posted another, which you can see right beneath it. Quote, I'm honored to announce my role as an ACLU ambassador on women's rights. Unquote. Aggrandizing herself at the expense of Mr. Depp. So make no mistake, this was about Mr. Depp. In the wake of the Me Too movement, with her ACLU ambassador...
The ACLU, okay, as much as I believe I'm anti-censorship and our government is so corrupt, as much as I know that, the ACLU could be the dumbest organization sometimes. They should have seen the evidence. They should have asked for evidence saying, do you have any proof of these allegations? Because she's a woman, though, they didn't ask. If it was a man, they would have said, where's the proof? We're going to say, because you're a man, that you are a liar, a piece of trash, unless you have evidence. If you're a woman, however, you're our ambassador. You don't need proof. Anyways, I think I should end this just a few minutes. I just want him to
ambassadorship
get
and a
done with
major
this
movie
speech,
coming
'cause
out.
so-
Ms. Heard was trading on her accusations of abuse against Mr. Depp. She was reminding everyone of those allegations. She was once again taking on the role of her lifetime, the heroic survivor of vicious abuse, or to use her phrase, quote, a public figure representing abuse. And she was once again casting Mr. Depp as the villain in her drama, the supposed perpetrator of that abuse. When you meet to deliberate this case, you're going to be tasked with several questions. Those questions appear on a form that you will use to reach your verdict in this case. So I would just like to ask you, please, to spend a few minutes with me going through that. Tom, would you please put up the special verdict form so the jury can see it? Some of it might please blow it up. Oh, thank you very much. You will see here the first page of the verdict form relating to Mr. Depp's claim for defamation against Ms. Heard. There are 3 pages relating to Mr. Depp's claim, one for each of the 3 defamatory statements in the op-ed that form the basis of Mr. Depp's claim against Ms. Heard. You've heard those 3 statements many times, but they bear repeating. I promise just once more here. 1, quote, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change, unquote. 2, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out, unquote.
That's fine.
3, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse, unquote.
That does not happen.
Now, there are 7 questions that you will need to please answer with respect to each of those statements. So that's
3 institutions that have. Take Activision Blizzard. They got found out. What those trashy men did to those ladies or other guys there, it wasn't just women at Activision Blizzard. Let me see here. What happened at Activision Blizzard, it wasn't just women, as men too that were sexually harassed. They go after guys that would try and help women, and they go after guys that I believe they thought were gay or acted gay in their opinion and everything. I'll have to do something on that. But they got found out, those guys did. They should probably put in a trash can of life, I guess, for life, and you're going to get found out. It's not like it used to in the old days where guys could get away with everything. This time you can say anything or be guilty if you're not. Most likely.
I think, but 7 as to each statement. 1, was the statement made or published?
I do acknowledge, of course, sexual harassment happens plenty of times. And I don't like guys that do that and talk a certain way.
Published by Ms. Heard. 2, was the statement about Mr. Depp? 3, was the statement false? 4, did the statement have a defamatory implication about Mr. Depp? 5, was the defamatory implication designed and intended by Ms. Heard? 6, was the defamatory implication conveyed to someone other than Mr. Depp? 7, did Ms. Heard make the statement with actual malice, which is, Her Honor explained, meaning did Ms. Heard make the statement knowing it was false or with reckless disregard as to the truth?
Sustainable with this.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence clearly shows that the answers to those 7 questions are all
in every
yes.
way with malice.
And if you answer yes to all of those questions, which you should, we respectfully submit, you will be asked to state the amount of damages to which Mr. Depp is entitled. In the wake of the Me Too movement, movie producers know better than to cast a movie star who has been accused of domestic and sexual violence. And it is entirely within your discretion as jurors to quantify the amount of money that constitutes fair compensation for Mr. Depp's pain and humiliation inflicted by Ms. Heard's defamation. But while Mr. Depp certainly is entitled to monetary compensation, this case, at least for Mr. Depp, has never been about money. This case for Mr. Depp has never been about money. Nor is it about punishing Ms. Heard. It is about Mr. Depp's reputation and freeing him from the prison in which he has lived for the last 6 years, and it's 6 years to the day. The most important questions for Mr. Depp, the ones truly at the heart of this case, are questions 2, 3, and 4 on the verdict form.
He looked like he was about to... Sometimes these people look like they're to just pass out and fall asleep. The audio went out.
And while Tom's pulling that up, let's take question 2. Thank you. Were the statements about Mr. Depp? Yes. 2 points here. 1, when the ACLU pitched the op-ed to the Washington Post, I think you'll remember this, they pitched it as, quote, a piece by Amber Heard, who, as you know, was beaten up during her brief marriage to Johnny Depp, unquote. That's how they pitched it. 2, after the op-ed was published, news outlets, including USA Today, and you've seen that was an exhibit, characterized the op-ed as referring to Ms. Heard's allegations of abuse against Mr. Depp. So the USA Today interpreted it that way, and so did many other publications. They got exactly the implication that Ms. Heard and the ACLU intended them to have. Tom, if you would please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 409 and 411, if you could put them side by side. And this was expected. This is what they wanted. There had been a lot of press 2 years prior to the publication of the op-ed about Ms. Heard's claims of abuse against Mr. Depp when she walked into court with her publicist to obtain the domestic violence, the no-notice ex parte, meaning Mr. Depp's lawyer was not informed and he was already in New York, which he testified Ms. Heard was well aware of. You don't need a domestic violence restraining order when your husband is halfway across the continent and is heading for a European tour.
Let's try to find out.
On May 27, 2016, with a purported mark in her face,
Law has some good
everyone
stuff
knew
too.
exactly who and what Ms. Heard was referring to in the op-ed. She was referring to Mr. Depp. Let's take questions 2 and 3 next, if we can. Were each of the statements false? And did the statements have a defamatory implication on Mr. Depp? Again, the clear answer is yes. The statements, understood in the context of the op-ed itself and in the broader context of the press coverage of Ms. Heard walking into the court with a mark on her face to obtain a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp in May 2016.
Let's see here. Get this.
Please return your verdict for Mr. Depp. We ask you, we implore you to give him his name, his reputation, and his career back. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a break at this time. Again, this case has not been submitted to you yet. We will continue with closing arguments when we come back, so do not discuss the case with yourselves. Don't do any outside research, okay? Thank you.
This is there's so many cases in court. She is happy in the back with, the curly hair. She's passionately, it's his case. He is passionately his case. Camille is passionately involved. It's only our lawyers. Amber Heard is not the same. For them, it's more that they have to. It's a business transaction thing where they have to obligatory defend their client. This, with Johnny Depp and stuff, is different. There's real, they believe in their client to the letter. Look at that. She's smiling. She really believes in this man. In the background there, the green
Let's come back
dress.
at 11:05. Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
She's happy with that. She really believes in him as well. For a woman to believe in a man in this type of case, it says a lot. A lot. Okay? Whereas most other cases, it's just a business transaction. Lawyers representing their clients, even if they don't really believe in their clients or they don't like them. This is a lot different. So, right here I'm going to end it, definitely. Anyways, hope you'll have a good week, a good Memorial Day. Love you. Take care. Bless. Bye bye.